Good morning, and welcome to Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church, in person and online worship. Whether today is your first time here or you've been coming for years, we're glad you are with us. My name is Clay Atkinson. I'm a member of the men's group and the elders group in the church, and my pronouns are he and him. We are a growing community that transforms lives through the power of love. Our mission calls us to celebrate diversity, encourage spiritual growth, and promote social responsibility while we travel on and care for the earth. A special welcome to those at home who are joining us on Zoom today. If you're attending for the first time, please go to the website and fill out the welcome card so we can know more about you. I have a few announcements. One I haven't had a chance to read yet. There will be a memorial service for our previous office manager, Alice Alexander. And that service is this coming Saturday, December 9th at 1 p.m. here at A2U2. And of course, all are welcome. It's suggested you should come for Games Day, first and third Wednesday, 1:30 in the boardroom. So if you enjoy playing games, as many of us do, those are the days to do it here at A2U2. So may I have Celeste and Terry come up? They have an announcement.
So we want you to know we're still standing. We're still friends.
We're still speaking to each other.
And we want to thank everybody for what I hope you agree with us was a glorious day yesterday at our fair. And we have many, many, many people to thank. And we also want to give you a preliminary figure, because this is for community building, but it's also our biggest fundraiser of the year. And we want you to know that as of yesterday, not counting all of you who went out there like bees to honey and started going for the tables, after which Barbara wants you to know, yes, you need to go back there and pay for whatever you took.
Otherwise, we know where you live and we know what car you drive. So if you have 4 good tires on your car now, if you don't pay.
That's right, that's it. So please do that. But we had a total yesterday of just under $10,000. Very excited. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And last year we made another couple thousand after the, on the Sunday. So shop. So the other thing we want to do is thank so many people. Whether you signed up here, whether you did not sign up here, whether you came up. So the first thing we would like to do is recognize this is for community. If you were an artisan with your own table and worked your you-know-what off, getting things ready to sell yesterday, please stand up so we can recognize you. Stay standing. If you were the head of one of our major areas, the children's area, the fine foods, the classy crafts, worked at any of those tables, the fiber arts, all of that. Cafe.
Raffle baskets.
All of the people who were really working hard ahead of time and getting those, thank you. If you worked at any of those tables and helped out yesterday, please stand up. If you helped in the cafe, if you were in the kitchen, if you were in the children's room, and all of the others. I have to say something about this. I know I'm taking too long, but I have to say something about this because 3 days before the fair, because nothing can ever go completely smoothly, we found out that Audrey Williams, our dear children's room coordinator came down with a rabid case of COVID. I mean, she's sick. So we feel so badly, and I just say that Linda and Cynthia back there just jumped on that thing, and they took it over, and they set it up, and thank you so much. Appreciate that. If you came to make Needham's last Monday, and we had such a fun crew, please stand up. And I know, oh, and our greeters need to stand up as well, and I see Judith over there. I know there are many people standing up in the Zoom room right now, right?
People that came to shop.
And if you came and spent money, please stand up. Yay. You know?
If you're gonna come and shop.
Yeah, and if you made things, right?
If you made things, and if you didn't shop yesterday, if you want to shop today,
Yeah,
stand
well,
up.
there is, that's right. And we know so many people bake, excuse me? If you sang, I
Oh,
sang.
you sang.
I don't think it was formal, I just did it,
When
right?
did you sing?
I don't know, I sang with Dale, I sang with Naomi back there, thank you.
Ukulele.
Our musicians, thank you, Emily, who went home and got her music and came over and played the piano.
And Dale, who came back and played.
And Dale, he was there too. So I know a lot of people baked and canned and knitted and crocheted and painted and did all kinds of things. So stand up if you did that.
And set up on Thursday, and again
Oh,
on Friday,
set up,
and cleaned
clean
up on
up.
Saturday.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Jerry Freeman, thank you for everything. Right? Our setup crew, my goodness, Jerry and Mike Luce and John Burdick and Norman Stickney. These guys, you know, they rock. And we love the cleanup crew. Thank you. So thanks, everybody. Thanks to us. And good job.
Now we invite you all to take the opportunity to silence your cell phones so that we can be fully present to one another. And after the service, please grab a cup of coffee in the kitchen if you drink coffee, window and stay for a conversation in the foyer or possibly outside the door. We encourage you to find someone you've never met before and introduce yourself. Those on Zoom may stay on and connect with one another, and they do, by the way. It's quite a group that does connect afterwards. And now let us center our hearts and minds with the ringing of the chimes.
Let there be light. Good morning, congregation. Oh, it's so good to be back. It's so good to see you. Yeah. For those of you I haven't met before and don't know why everyone's clapping, my name is Reverend Tara, and I use the pronouns she, her, and they, them. I'm the transitional minister here at Allen A2U2 Church. And as many of you know, and probably if you didn't know, you noticed that I have been on leave and have been out of the pulpit the last 3 Sundays. And I want to thank the November 12th lay leaders who put together a beautiful worship service. I want to thank the worship committee as well as our guest minister, Erica Hewitt, for 3 wonderful services. I watched them all after the fact. 10 o'clock was hard. It's good to remember for us as a community how many ways there are to do worship and how different all of our styles are. So today is a different day in worship, a special day for some. It is the first Sunday in the liturgical season of Advent. And I decided to try something new this year and work with a theme for the entire month of December. Our theme is a question. How does a weary world rejoice? And we begin today. Each service will be an attempt to answer that question, although we know that no answer is complete or full. But we answer that question today beginning, how does a weary world rejoice? We acknowledge our weariness. We acknowledge our weariness. And so as you settle your bodies into this time and space, as you allow yourselves to arrive here, hear these words of invocation. In this place, we can be joyful. We can be grateful. We can be hopeful. In this place, we can be weary. We can be anxious. We can be grieving. In this place, we can be honest, inspired or tired, delighted or doubtful, connected or curious, and everything in between. This is our sanctuary. You are welcome exactly as you are. Come, let us worship together. At this time, I invite up Liam, who's going to light our chalice. And as we light our chalice this morning, those worshiping at home are invited to light a chalice or a candle near you to connect us to one another. Enter with me the sacred space. Bring with you what is yours, a burdened heart, a joyous song, a wearied spirit, a seeking mind. Bring the gift of yourself to the altar. It is an honorable gift. And I light a second candle this morning, a candle of community. And I light this candle in continued prayer for all those affected by the end of the ceasefire in Gaza, as well as those impacted by the rise of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism around the world. Would you take a breath with me? And now Lisa's going to come up, and we're going to light the Advent wreath. It is the time of year where we light all the candles. The first candle of Advent is the candle of hope. How does a weary world hope?
By telling stories of hope, by lighting candles in the night and planting seeds in the winter that will bloom in the spring, by praying for children as they grow and picking up trash on the sidewalk, by insisting that small acts can make a difference.
There are a million ways to practice hope. So today we light the candle of hope as a reminder and as a charge.
With love's help, may we bring hope into a weary world. Amen.
Our opening hymn is number 1055 in your teal hymnal, How Sweet the Darkness. Dale will play it through once, and then you're welcome to rise in body or in spirit as we sing together. George? Oh, yeah, there we go. We're going to make a little noise. Yeah, we're going to make noise. So, do you ever find this time of year to be a bit busy? There we go. Do you? Busier than normal? Or pretty much the same? Just the same. How about grown-ups? Yeah, busier than normal. And sometimes this busyness can be really fun, and sometimes it can leave us exhausted and grumpy and resentful and, stuff like that. And sometimes it's both. Actually, usually it's both. There's fun parts of the busyness, and then there's stressful parts of the busyness too. So something that our culture tries to sort of, well, I don't even know if it tries, but it successfully does, is it creates this image of what a good life is this time of year. You're supposed to have all the things and hang out with all the loving family members who aren't dysfunctional at all. I'm like, who of us has one of those, right? And there's just a lot of pressure for some of us. Some of us don't experience that, but others of us do. And the rhythm of life at a time where nature is slowing down and getting darker, we're ramping up. It can feel like a lot. And so I want to think about the rhythm of our lives right now. We've done an activity like this before, kind of like creating a storm. But we're going to create a holiday chaos storm. So start to use your body, whether it's rubbing your hands together or clapping your hands or maybe stomping your feet. Think about what your days are going to look like over the next month and start to create a rhythm that matches your days. And now either put into the chat or shout out some of the things, keep making the noise, some of the things that are making that rhythm what it is. Shopping, baking, what else? Emails. Who? Travel. Christmas cards. Guilt. All right. Okay, now slow it down slowly. Don't stop, but slow it down. Okay. Keep going. Now think of the rhythm of the long, dark evenings and the long, dark nights. Think of the rhythm of animals preparing for hibernation. Think of the rhythm of steam rising off hot tea or coffee, or the quiet patter of rain or the silent falling of snowflakes, of cold days snuggling with a pet. What does that rhythm sound like? Yes. While so much of our modern world is calling us into a frenzy of action, nature and our communities can also call us into a deeper quiet. And so I wonder if we can find that rhythm in our lives just this week, even for a moment, because we do have a choice. Now, listen to the silence for a second. All the motions have fallen away. Notice the feeling of your breath. Maybe put a hand on your heart. Maybe you can get quiet enough to feel its beat. This is my wish for all of us. Therein ends our chaos storm.
In a few moments, some of us will leave the sanctuary to enjoy religious education programming. It is a musical Sunday in RE, so I'm excited about that. But first, I invite our lamplighter, Calvin, to join me in the pulpit. A lamplighter is entrusted to transfer the light of the sanctuary chalice to the lamp, then go forth to RE spaces where they will light the chalices there. Calvin will now light the lamp. I invite those going to RE to follow the lamplighter as we carry the flame, expanding our sacred space.
Would you join me in the spirit of prayer? Spirit of life, you carry us through our days. You know the dreams in our hearts and the weight of our bones. You also know the weariness we bring with us into the morning and into this space. So with honesty, we are here, both with hearts full of gratitude and with hopes on our lips. We give thanks for the gifts of this life that give energy. And in addition to our prayers of gratitude, we bring the things that weigh heavy on our hearts. So many of them we ask for the attention of that greater love. We ask for love itself and for care. That this yoke may be taken from us, that we might find some relief for the burdens that weigh us down. Wrap your arms around places where we feel most tender. And as we enter into this holiday season, a season marked with joy, hope, and light, we ask that we be reminded that our full humanity is welcome here. There is room for both joy and grief. There is room for weariness and awe. There is room for faith and doubt. For nothing is too big or too far gone for the love of that Spirit to reach it. With hope in our hearts this morning, we pray. Amen.
We are a freely gathered, open, and welcoming faith community supported by your contributions. Each week, 1/3 of our offering is given away to a nonprofit organization whose mission aligns with the Unitarian Universalist values. This month's Share the Plate recipient, however, is a little different. In December, we shall share our offering with the A2U2 Minister's Discretionary Fund, which provides confidential emergency financial assistance for church members and friends. You can learn more in your order of service, e-news, or by asking Reverend Tara. Donations can be made now at the basket is passed through donate button on the website, or if you are a member on Breeze. If giving through Breeze, please note if the donation is your pledge or a gift to our Share the Plate. If you are visiting us for the first time this morning, please know that your presence is your gift to us for today. At this time, our offering will be collected and gratefully received.
Wade in. Over time, wind and water will sand down the edges of a stone. For humans, our wind and water is the grief of the world. Stay here long enough, and pieces of you will be pressed upon by life's never-ending stream. It's enough to make you weary. It's enough to make you question. It's enough to make you quiet. And yet, the stream continues. So do not be afraid to sit in that water. Wade in, soak the hem of your jeans, drip wet footprints through every room in your home. Let the water stains tell your story. And when your body grows weary of swimming, name the stream. Acknowledge your weariness, for eventually you will pick flowers from the opposite bank. And over again, we'll tell this story. And over again, a weary world will rejoice. Thank you, choir and Dale. Beautiful. Hard to follow. The joy of the holiday season is hard for some of us to reach. It's hard for some of us to reach, perhaps because we have complicated families, limiting financial situations, or have lost someone dear, perhaps because our mental health tanks when the sun goes down, perhaps because we feel guilty celebrating and embracing joy when so much is broken in our world. Or perhaps because we don't feel a deep connection to the story of Christmas or solstice or Hanukkah. I used to be a total Scrooge. A total Scrooge. I hated this time of year. It meant planning how to split up my time with my divorced parents. It meant the pressure of giving gifts, and for me, even worse, receiving gifts. It meant so much stuff and lights and expectations, and all of that was completely overwhelming to me. That was before I knew the stories of these holidays, before I understood and embraced their deeper meaning, before I was any kind of churchgoer. Eventually, I realized I don't hate Christmas. I hate consumerism. They're not the same. When I realized that I could embrace the religious, the spiritual nature of the December holidays and leave behind the dominant culture celebration of them, everything changed for me. Part of what changed is that the religious and spiritual orientation to the December holy days inherently make room for the complexity of our lives. While dominant culture, Christmas, wants us to spend lots of money and lots of time with family who may or may not be good for us, and be merry and bright all the time, spiritual Christmas is rooted in a complex story. And remember from last year that stories can be true whether they happened or not. A complex story that includes a long journey, poverty, occupation, homelessness, longing, as well as the birth of hope, the promise of love's presence and grace and brightness, even amidst all that is broken. At its best, this time of year can actually make gorgeous spaciousness for us to acknowledge our weariness. Some congregations, and you may have been part of one before, hold something called a Blue Christmas or Longest Night service, a service making space for grief, weariness, loneliness, or other hard feelings that come up for people in December. UCC minister Reverend Mary Ludy offers some context, explaining that Blue Christmas services came onto the Protestant liturgical scene in the mid-1990s in pastoral consideration of the sadness, depression, loss, and estrangement many people report feeling and experiencing during a season of relentless cheer and family-centered celebrations. Normally held in the evening in mid to late December, these services are designed to acknowledge this pain and offer consolation in the form of worship that does not take for granted that all is well. I've been to these services before, and they can be truly lovely. They meet a need for so many. In fact, one year, get ready for this one, I was attending a Blue Christmas service in Massachusetts that a friend of mine was leading. I had just finished a grueling week of graduate school final exams. I was preparing for Christmas in my internship congregation. I was very overtired and frazzled that December, so weary. there was a candle lighting part of the service with these long, really thin candles. They had a dish with sand, a lot like ours, but it was big and shallower. Do you know where this is headed? So the candles were lit. It was beautiful. People were, had tears streaming down their faces, and it was this really lovely ritual. And the worship leaders were in one of those really high old New England pulpits, like where you can't actually see what's underneath you, read the candles. And one by one, the candles started to tip over into the sand tray, and the whole thing became a fiery mess. Oh, and the tray was plastic. The plastic began to melt and spill onto the table, and the worship leaders had no idea that any of this was happening. But you know what the scariest part was? The scariest part was that I watched. And my first thought was not to jump up and put out the fire. It was, dear God, please let someone else do this. I am so tired as I watched it burn. A few moments passed, and someone jumped up, and everything was okay. But it has become for me an example of just how drained, just how weary we can feel, even in a beautiful space with music and candles and garlands. And these services, these Blue Christmas or Longest Night services, do not tend to be part of my own practice of ministry. And not because they're a fire hazard, which they are. They sure are. They're not really a part of my ministry because I feel that there should always be space in worship and in the life of the congregation for acknowledging weariness, grief, and loneliness every Sunday, and the days between Sundays too. Fatigue and tears need not be saved for a special service about grief or for a moment in my office with the door closed. Those are appropriate places for them, in so much as I believe all aspects of community life should be an appropriate place to bring our full selves. Worship ought to be able to hold our losses and our sadness, as well as our hopes and joys and our gratitude too. Especially in this season of winter holy days, there is space for all of it. Renowned American theologian Walter Brueggemann once wrote that many of us were seduced into thinking that the church ought to be the happiest place in town. But, he says, the church doesn't need to be the happiest place in town. The church needs to be the most honest place in town. Out of such honesty, he says, happiness arises. There is nothing more emancipatory than being able to tell the truth in a safe place. The church doesn't need to be the happiest place in town. The church needs to be the most honest place in town, for out of such honesty, happiness arises. How does a weary world rejoice? We acknowledge our weariness. We name what is true, allowing ourselves to feel all of it, the full gamut, perhaps acknowledging it aloud or silently. I was reminded recently by my colleague Chip Rausch that, in his words, the lament is one of the oldest human art forms. These poems of sorrow, usually including a request for divine intervention, go back several thousands of years. From Beowulf to the Iliad, from the Hebrew Bible to the Hindu Vedas, we find our human ancestors crying out in suffering, asking for relief, and promising to live better, if only their dire circumstances might be changed. If you are wondering, he says, about the difference between lamentation and whining, well, lamentation sounds better. And more importantly, it indicates a fundamental willingness to change or be changed. Being honest, acknowledging our weariness and our complex relationships to these times we live through, I believe opens us up to change, to transformation, even perhaps in moments to rejoicing. But rejoicing for me isn't actually the goal. Wholeness is the goal. A wholeness in which we make our home by embracing the full spectrum of being in community. A wholeness in which weariness is as important a part as rejoicing. A wholeness that includes joy and light and darkness and grief, worry, fatigue. And we can be, as a community, countercultural in offering the radical invitation to one another and to all who come through our doors to be no more and no less than their full selves at any given moment, even during the holidays. Now, yesterday I had my first experience of this congregation's holiday fair. I have been to many a church fair, and this was fantastic. I returned home to, the home of a friend who I'm visiting this weekend, and my friend asked me how it was, and I found myself saying, it was amazing to see them in their element and at their best. The energy and the joy in this place were palpable. The hard work was obvious. The place was transformed. There was hugging and chatting and food and folks reconnecting with people they hadn't seen in a long time. There were beautiful items created by the hands of awesome people. And because I am your minister, because I have the privilege of you sharing some of the details of your lives with me, I know that for many of you, joy and rejoicing, like what I saw yesterday, isn't the only part of your story. In fact, it's sometimes just a small part. There are also complexities, and there is also despair, and yet it is part of your story, this deep joy and connection, this rejoicing. And it's part of mine, and it's part of our shared story that we create as a community. It's all part of the story. I want us to be a church that is honest, that in Mary Ludy's words, manages to hold the complexity of our lives in the same service, in one service, or in a series of services, not aiming for some phony balance, but in a way that mirrors the real life oscillations of soul anguish and body anguish we human beings experience in the midst of cheer and the gladness and gratitude we are all, in fact, capable of knowing, even if it's hard in the midst of pain. Mary concludes, the community in which support, consolation, and healing come to each of us, in each of us most surely and most graciously, is the whole community. The gathering of the joyous and the afflicted, the peaceful and the troubled, the faith-filled and the faith-emptied. So, my weary and rejoicing friends, my congregation, may we enter this season of darkness and light with open hearts. And in doing so, may we find pockets of wholeness, pockets of wholeness that will remind us that we have worlds within us and that we are held in love. May it be so. Amen. Our closing hymn this morning is number 225 in your gray hymnal, O come, Emmanuel. Dale will play it through once, and then you are invited to rise in body or in spirit as we sing together. There is too much hardship in this world to not find joy every day. There is too much injustice in this world to not right the balance every day. There's too much pain in this world not to heal every day. Each of us ministers to a weary world. Let us go forth now and do that which calls us to make the world more loving, more compassionate, and more filled with grace every day. Our worship has ended, and our service begins. Go in peace.